Good morning. Welcome into my home. I want to speak to you this morning about grace. It's so awesome, all the things Jesus does just to show us His grace. Now look at Paul for a minute. Paul is actually his Latin or Greek name. Saul was Paul's Hebrew name, okay? He was a devout Hebrew and was persecuting and killing all converts of Christianity because he and devout Hebrews considered Christians heretics. Now you know the story. Saul was converted on his way to Damascus when a bright light from heaven shone down, and he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying, "Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me?" Now, here's the first thing I want you to notice about this. I want you to notice how personal Jesus took it that Saul was persecuting the Christians. See, Paul was persecuting the Christians, not Jesus. Yet Jesus took it personal and asked Saul, "Why are you persecuting me?" The Christian does not need to try to retaliate against those who are persecuting them. Leave it in Jesus' hands and He will avenge in a just manner. So anyway, you know the story. Saul was blinded by the light, and now he has to be led everywhere that he goes. He no longer had the power or the ability to persecute the Christian. Jesus rendered him powerless because Jesus had fulfilled the law for all mankind on the cross, and Saul could no longer use the law against Christians. The grace of God, of Christ, had fulfilled and completed the law. Now Saul must learn the grace of Christ and advance grace instead of enforce law. Now Jesus speaks to a man named Ananias and tells him to go to Saul and confirm Saul's conversion to Christianity, lay hands on Saul so that he would receive the Holy Spirit and his sight would be restored. Now, you got to get this. Ananias was the man's Latin or Greek name. His Hebrew name would have been Hananiah, which means grace of God. So the law, which had held Saul in bondage, Saul now becomes blind to, and when Jesus opened Saul's eyes, the first thing he saw was a man called Grace of God. Is that awesome? This is the same reason the mercy seat was covering the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark represents the law and contained the two tablets of the law, but the mercy seat covered the Ark, and it represents God's grace and His mercy. His law, let me get this right. God's grace covers His law. God's grace is greater than His law. And God's grace completes His law. His grace and His mercy is greater than His law. It covers His law and it completes His law. Do you get that? So we don't need to live or try to live under law. We just need to live under the grace that has been afforded us through Jesus Christ at the cross. May God bless you richly this week. Go with God.